Good night. Next news. Nova Scotia vowed to stop spending in the U.S. Here's how that's going. CBC. As U.S. President Donald Trump released his latest threat of a 35% tariff on Canadian goods starting August 1, Premier Tim Houston issued a statement calling the announcement from the White House childish bull, lying, and said provincial procurement measures will stay in place. In February, the province said it would limit access to provincial procurement for American businesses. Last week, the province made data available to CBC News showing a breakdown of public tenders since last November. Below are your comments. COVID almost sank us because all countries relied on other countries for vital goods. All countries should be rethinking trade. The next COVID could be much worse. Thanks is due to the American corporations that went international. The world now has rising economies all over the place. They went international in order to find cheap labor in third world countries. The industry that they created in those countries allowed for their own rising economies. They are now or close to becoming viable trading partners, and the U.S. tariffs will only push that rise faster yet. Every nation will begin to diversify. For a century, the U.S. was reliable and honorable. This has ended. Look for all nations to reconsider trade and take the USA out of their most preferred country to TRA. With. I posted on here that this idea of tariffs are built in a vacuum. There is a theory that the USA can generate large amounts of tax revenue with no harm to the nation. But that is simply incorrect. If there is a 30% tariff, everyone pays a piece of the payment to the government. The producer will take a piece of it but tiny, the importer will take a piece but tiny, the retailer will take a piece but tiny. Historically, likely still now, the consumer pays about 70% of the tariff rate, or in this instance 21% of the 30%. Put in easier terms, a $100 TV will cost $121 by end of year. That is a 21% inflation rate on the goods. Tariffs are mostly a sales tax on the people and nothing more. Tariffs are to protect certain industries, but when used in bulk, they are insanely inflationary and harm the U.S. citizens more than any other nation on the planet. Canada has signed trade deals with countries such as the United Kingdom, Japan, and members of the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. These efforts reflect Canada's strategy to reduce reliance on the U.S. market and enhance its global trade presence. Canada will be fine, just like anyone that goes shopping. If you don't like the prices or the store you're in, find a better store. Man shrugging. I don't think America has to worry about trade with Canada and Mexico anymore. Just one example. Canada just refused 150,000 tons of U.S. beef. Instead, they're getting it from Mexico, and Canada has refused to buy American steel, as it is inferior to the modern manufactured steel. They're going to ship products back and forth by sea, avoiding American tariffs. This would save each country over $200 billion a year and cut the U.S. out of the loop. Income the U.S. will be losing. Other recent changes. The oil pipeline that was to be extended between the U.S. and Canada has been rerouted to the west coast of Canada to be exported to Asian countries instead of the U.S. Canada has also signed a new trade agreement with the EU, and nobody appreciates it more than Canada and Mexico. Too bad, as such good neighboring countries, that we could eliminate all tariffs on each other and do business above board. Nova Scotia area is one of my fav places in Canada. Bay of Fundy area is beautiful in the fall. Notice that there is no mention of how many contracts were awarded to other companies even when American companies were the low bidder. The US did have some great relationships, trade-wise and otherwise, with a great many countries up to very recently. Now, suddenly, not so much. Many more nations will do the same. America is the most hated nation on earth today. I see US businesses failing as tariffs drive a gaping hole into US economy. If Trump think that everyone will bow down, they are not. Facts are that any nation that is isolated from world trading, it will collapse. Just look at Russia, Cuba, North Korea. Chinese can manage every corner of the globe because they are smart and having a hand inside every nation. This is a global collapse coming and get into worst-case depression if US debts holders start dumping our debts and the dollar collapse. Why would anyone hold US debts when the dollar will be worthless? This is what our brilliant president has brought. Why would anyone want to do business with us? Sad days for this once great country. I don't know how we'll survive another 3 years. I had hopes for the midterms but think the Republicans will find a way to rig the elections or cancel them altogether. I was born in Nova Scotia and my heart is always conservative Canadian. So we ain't supposed to outrage that Canadians are using Canadians to supply a workforce and supplies? Reaching to put it mildly. Trump's tariffs will backfire. Foreign buyers will stop buying anything American, which will make our balance of payments more imbalanced. No factories will be built based on Trump's whimsical tariff tax tantrums. It's tough for a Canadian and CDN company to buy US because of foreign exchange. So it's almost a moot point. Canadians have to fork over $1.37 of their currency to buy something that is $1 USF. Point buying. Gee, there isn't a lot of incentive for Canadians to buy US in the first place. Choosing Canadian businesses to deal with is good as well as looking around for other countries to buy and sell what they need and have for sale. People need to research the tariffs charged to America by other countries. Some of them are extremely high. I think you should get the best product or service at the best price you can, regardless of where it is from. The tariffs really only hurt the American consumer, and hopefully this nonsense will not last very long. All of the people have their issues with tariffs. But they accept the tariff imbalances which has existed for years. The American debt is approaching out of control. I want to hear all of your plans to fix the national debt. Good. I hope Nova Scotia follows through. Canada is our best neighbor for years. Anyone realize that Halifax was the assembly point for the Great Atlantic convoys during WW2? You think the bankruptcy king, 34-count unpunished felon, bought and paid for draft dodger, known T. Axe cheat, is some great business genius? Keep dreaming. Keith USCG Combat. Tourism is a business. How is the ferry traffic from Bar Harbor, Maine to Yarmouth, Nova Scotia holding up after the anti-Canadian VAT plus tariffs were assessed? P.S. Even after free trade agreement was reached between US and Mexico and Canada still imposed a VAT, value-added tax, on Americans, paying higher taxes and other governments unwilling to hire US companies or buy US debt. This will work out just fine for people with a ton of money to fall back on, and for those who have been home gardening, tanning of leather, and stacking silver. Quoting, every nation will begin to diversify. 00. For a century the US was reliable and honorable. This has ended. 00. I don't blame any nation or entity if they refuse to do any business with Trump's us. The bad thing is this is damage that can never be repaired. Tariffs are only one part of the reason Canadians are avoiding us like we smell bad. There's the little matter of our president sounding off about making Canada our 51st state. Whoever thought that was a good idea? Oh, yeah, only Trump. The article sounds like Canada is retaliating when in fact it's just seeking partners that are democratic and stable, reliable partners. Fortunately, other democracies have alternatives to the US, which is now categorized similar to emerging markets. Canada has a long history of tariffs on USA products and a value-added tax on most Canadian products, which may or may not be refunded to foreign purchasers. I advocate tariffs based on equality of value. If country A imposes $2 billion United States dollars of tariffs on USP products, then the USA should charge country A $2 billion in tariffs. Former great allies of the USA are backing away from doing business with us. They are forming new alliances with each other and excluding the USA. They recognize we have inept, unreliable, unstable and untrustworthy leadership. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you like it, please thumbs up.